Hey, Howard here at 82 Maple, and wow, I don't know if the camera is picking it up, but it's snowing out here, which brings us to the subject matter for this little video. Before I jump into the subject matter, though, I'm going to tell you, you've got a choice. You can either watch kind of a 4-minute synopsis of the issue as I talk about the torture test with this little rear mount Frontier blade that I've got on the 4066, which is about a 50 horse tractor, or you can watch the extended version beyond 4 minutes for some additional perspectives and maybe a couple of tips and a couple of clues of what I'm up against. Would love to get your comments down below or your questions as we talk about the RB2196H blade, which I got specifically for plowing snow. I've been using it for about 4 months now, maybe 4.5. It's an 8-foot blade. In the extended version of the video, I incorrectly refer to it as a 9-foot blade, which is something I was looking for initially. I've used this blade maybe all of 10 to 12 hours plowing driveway. Yeah, there's been some chunky ice. Yeah, there's been an occasional chunk of dirt. But this in no way measures up to the robustness and usability of the little 54-inch snowblower that I put through a torture test. I'm going to throw the link to that video in down below as well. That one I would give an unequivocal 5-star rating to Frontier for. This one, I'll tell you right up front, I'm going to go straight to the last chapter of this book. This one gets about 2 stars, and I'll quickly tell you why. Okay, I've got 3 adjustment bolts here. You can see these are slotted, so I can manually adjust the tilt of the blade. Of course, I have my tilt up there, not just the regular tractor tilt, but the tip and tilt mechanism right in there, and that's pretty amazing. But really, this is about the setting. It's not exactly centered top to bottom, and that's very intentional for the type of work that I do and exactly how I'm going to end up for the things I'm doing. Sometimes I want to crown a driveway a little bit, and so this is set up for it. Does not hold. And I go into that in some length in the extended version of the video. There's nothing I've been able to do to get this to hold. I'm going to have to get my welder out and weld some stops in there. That's issue number 1. Here's the bigger issue, issue number 2. When I took delivery of this blade, there's 2 metal plates here. One on the portion that mounts to the tractor. The other is a plate of steel in here. You can see that this is my angle cylinder. And you've all used this kind of blade, whether it was hydraulic angle or manual angle, but this on delivery was 2 plates of 1/2-inch steel that were completely tight together. You can see they're no longer completely tight together. So let's just check out how much slack there is in this. I'm going to, okay, so I'm not touching anything here. We're going to zero in on the top of this nut. It's at 19.5 inches. I'm going to press down, and I can go down to 18.25 inches. Now I'm going to lift up, keep this in here, and I'm going up to fully 22 inches. I'm not lifting hard. I may be lifting 50 pounds there. So I'm at 3 3/4 of an inch. That means I'm out 6 to 7 inches across the width of this blade. But look what else is happening here. Wow. So if I apply a little foot pressure right here, look at this gap opening up. That is simply from maybe 10 hours, 11 hours of front blading, and at most 30 minutes of back blading, just pushing light snow into a pile. I know the camera isn't giving us a measurement here, so this is my little quick square. That's 1/4 of an inch thick. Let me show you this. That goes right in there like nothing. And on the sides, look, I can put that full 1/4 inch in there with no effort whatsoever. Well, you know, I think that pretty much sums up a 2-star rating. I expected to be able to do some landscaping with some accuracy. I don't think this blade is going to do it. So what have I got here? The 4066, 50 horse, tugging on this blade. Is that too much blade tractor for the blade? Clearly, too little blade for the tractor. So stay tuned for some additional perspectives on this, some additional detail. I actually take the thing apart, and I'm going to start by telling you what I had to do to even tighten this nut up to get this as tight as you just seen. So we have down here a nut with should be a little cotter pin in there, and I bent it, so I just put some hay wire through it. But I have no choice in how tight this nut is if I'm going to use that cotter pin hole. And so we'll talk about what I did to get it as tight as I got it now. Enjoy. And hey, we're still having fun. Like, this is part of the adventure here at 82 Maple. Again, pop your comments in below. On to the next step. Hey, one more thing before jumping into the main feature here. I dropped the blade and backed the tractor up about 3 inches just so I could fully demonstrate the distance between the upper plate and the blade rotator plate. And there we have it, a full 1/2 inch gap. I'm just not impressed with that. And as we look under that blade rotator plate, to either the right or left of the nut, it would have been so easy to put a 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch gusset that extends fully out to the adjuster holes that you see there when using it with a manual stop rather than the hydraulic that I've got lifted. Now let's quickly contrast this to the old red blade that my dad bought from Massey Ferguson in 1967. So we're rolling the clock back here 55 years. And there we have it. Take a look at this. Instead of 1/2 inch steel, that's full 3/4 inch steel. And that blade is as tight as the day we bought that in 1967. Look at that gusset coming out from the upright tube there. Solid. I'm just so enormously disappointed in Frontier with this blade. Incidentally, the old red blade is 6 feet wide and was built to withstand the pull of up to a 35 horse diesel at the time. Okay, on to it. Hey, Howard here at 82 Maple. So today we're starting with the solution, not the problem we're trying to solve, but hang in here with me. Got the little Dremel going. Here's hoping this does the trick. Nope, not too hot to handle, so we'll give it a whirl. Hey, we're out in the little shop. If this looks like a disaster zone, it is a disaster zone because we've got a bunch of doors that have just come in. Coral and I are on, I don't know, midnight watch or something. We'll be working out here till midnight to compress this shop down to just about nothing so we can get these doors for our amazing, now totally documented 1928 built log cabin in the Kelowna area of British Columbia. That is amazing. This is one of the oldest structures around that's still standing. But I digress. We've got to plow something like about 800 meters, so that's 0.8 of a kilometer, so 1/2 mile of driveway, and I depend on a John Deere 4066 and a 9-foot Frontier plow. And hey, let's go outside and look at the bits and pieces. Okay, so this thing is obviously in bits and pieces. this Frontier 9-foot wide blade. It's got the hydraulic angle. It's got the, I've got the it's operating off the John Deere iMatch over here. Coral's going to show you the tip and tilt kit. This lifts and lowers hydraulically from the driver's seat, of course. The right hand side of the blade, and then I've got my tilt up here, and we're going to talk about these hoses and hose control. That's a whole nother subject for another day, but there's a couple of things that we've got going on here. Number one, look at this gap. This is supposed to be like slip a piece of photocopier paper in between there tight, and it just started deteriorating. And all of a sudden, when I'd put the blade down and go to tilt it and it wouldn't tilt, it was because there was a gap there. We have a 1.5-inch head bolt, which is about, hey, bring out the trusty tape measure here. It's a 1-inch bolt. By the markings on it, we've got something like grade 8 steel in it, and we've got a lock nut on it with a flange around the top. There's a washer under here, and this isn't the first time that I've had this kind of gap here. Coral and I came out, we noticed it, got her to give me a hand, we tightened it up right tight, thinking, okay. So I took delivery of this. Somebody forgot to tighten it, which in fact, pretty much everything on this particular blade was not tight when I got it from the dealer. These hydraulic hoses were sloppy loose, and had to work on those. I still have to retighten that one. For some reason, it keeps working itself loose. I'll overcome that. And then the blade here, I can set adjustments by undoing 3 bolts in these areas, and the lock washers are just ineffective. They do not hold it. So, hey, Coral's behind the camera right now, so this is my public declaration that I now have the best excuse in the world for buying the electric welder that I always wanted, because I'm going to weld some stops on here, because I get the blade adjusted just the way I want it. I plow the driveway, make 3 or 4 passes, and I apply every bit of torque I can on a 24-inch bar. I also have a cheater bar that I put on the end of it, giving me something like 3 feet, to the point that I'm risking twisting off that 1/2-inch head, and I still can't get these nuts that go down here tight enough to hold the blade. So there we go. We're gonna get a welder. I'm gonna weld some stops on there, and there we go. Hey, look forward to an episode on the welder. But back to this, what's happened here, and Coral's gonna try and get a shot of this, and I got some shots with a still camera that I'll put in here. There's a single flimsy, in my opinion, washer up in here that every time I tighten the nut, it merely compresses the washer. Now let's go back to the opening scene where I was grinding out something like a 15/16 hole in a washer to fit over this 1-inch bolt. I went to my trusty bolt bin over there in my little tool trailer and dug out this washer, hoping that'll help. So I'm going to take this, pop it up in here. Is this slipping on any better? I may put a little oil or something. If I can get this just on enough, I'm going to force it up with the nut. And I think I've got enough traction to do that. I'll force it up with the nut. I'll conclude this video, and we'll insert some pics of the final product. I'm confident that we can get this tightened up. The reason I took this apart, just going back 2 steps here to let you catch up. I thought there was some fancy bearings, bushings, something in here that had gone awry that allowed this kind of wobble. This kind of wobble, it's only like 1/2 inch from here to here. When you translate that out to the end of the blade, we've got 6 inches of play up and down. That doesn't work snow plowing or moving dirt or anything else. And so I expected to find some, again, amazing, fancy bushings, bearings, something up there. No. This bolt begins here. It comes through a bushing set to here. There is nothing in between here. This literally grinds itself plate against plate on here, which suggests that I need to throw. I've got some pretty interesting, it's made by Werther's. That's W-U-R-T-H. I think it's E-R-S or it's just R-S. It's essentially a liquid grease that comes out of a spray bottle in the form of liquid, but quickly solidifies into grease. So I'm going to have to, for maintenance purposes, plug that in there. Hey, wish me luck. I'll keep you posted. Here at 82 Maple, hey, we're still having fun as long as I keep these 8 fingers and 2 thumbs.